What's up? This is David, co-founder of Omniscient Digital, and you're listening to The Long Game. In this episode, we sit down with Joei Chan, Director of Brand and Content at 360 Learning, where she manages a team of 17, working across content, SEO, social media, community, campaigns, PR, video, website, evangelization, and brand. Yeah, it's a lot. Before 360 Learning, she was at 5 other B2B SaaS startups, serving in content roles and always with a focus on inbound demand generation in multiple languages and markets. In our conversation, we talk about her experience being the star of a video series about her first 90 days onboarding to her current role at 360 Learning and the brand benefit of those sorts of marketing plays. While many companies focus on channels and activities that have a clear, direct, measurable ROI, Joei and the 360 Learning team have built out a much more diversified marketing portfolio that includes both those traditional channels like paid content and SEO, but also bets like a masterclass style learning hub and a second video series and a podcast and more. Joei shares the thinking behind those bets and how she was able to make a case for all of those. We also get into a heated discussion about content as a career and how we need to level up its place in the marketing org. She shares how she has worked through the cultural shift from a pure paid demand gen culture to seeing the value of organic growth and brand. Here's my conversation with Joei Chan. Joei, it is great to see you. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, David.
Yeah, it's great to have you. So we met many years ago. I believe it was at Inbound in Boston.
Oh my God, I feel so old.
You were at Mention at the time. And in my research, I went back and found that video and we look like children.
There's a video of you and me interviewing you, I think.
Yeah.
Oh God, I don't want to watch it. I think it'll make me cringe so much. But yes.
I cringe seeing myself. So I get where you're coming from. I would look back at it just for nostalgia. It's a reflective time of the year. It's the end of the year. But now you're the one in front of the camera and everyone in B2B, it feels like, has spoken about onboarding Joei. So we can start there.
Mm-hmm.
So onboard. Yeah, tell us about that. What's going on there?
Well, for people who, most, I think, people haven't heard of onboarding Joei, it's basically a B2B reality TV show that my company decided to take a huge risk on me when I started my job as content director. The pitch was to follow me for 90 days until my probation period ends and see how my onboarding goes and whether I, passed my probation, basically. Because in France, it's quite a big thing, like to pass your probation, because then once you're in a permanent contract, it's like, they can't fire you or whatever. So that was the pitch. And
maybe for listeners who aren't from the EU, my understanding is probation is like first 90 days, an employer can decide to just let you go if it doesn't work out.
Right.
But if you pass probation, it's my understanding of EU, like hiring policy or like employment policy is it's almost impossible to fire.
It's
someone.
Like you're golden. Right? Well, yeah, in theory. So it's much harder. It's much harder to fire someone. And if you do, you have to pay them out 3 months of salary. So it's like, it's a big decision for the company. So yeah, anyway, so that's the whole pitch of the show. And at that time, it was pitched to me by the head of video then, who was like, I need a new idea. I need a big break, basically, because I've been doing these like how-to videos. Nobody's watching them. And, I just want to take a big risk and either it works great or I lose my job, and I do something else. And so I was new to the company. I was like, okay, well, there's not much for me to lose here. Either like only 3 people watch it and then forget about it, or maybe it works, who knows. And the content marketer in me is also curious about this like new format and want to kind of be a part of an experiment. So went ahead and did it. And it was just him follow me around with an iPhone most days. And then we do one sit down interview per week. And then he edits immediately and publish in real time. So it's really like following me along so you can see it's happening. And so everybody in the company was also excited because they see things happening and then see it on the screen. And then I think the most dramatic part of all that was not in the storyline was that COVID happened and then everything shut down. We didn't even know if we could continue the show. And then, so we had to in real time, like kind of one step at a time, figure out what's going to happen next. And I think that was really what blew the show up, because then everybody was home and they had nothing else to do too. So they're watching this person going through COVID as they are themselves. And so I think that's what created the resonance probably.
Yeah. Were you pitched on the show during the interview process or afterward? Like, did you know what you were signing up for when you joined?
No, it was after I already accepted the job offer, but before I started my first day. So after saying yes to the job, before starting my first day, and he was just like, I have this idea and, say yes or no. And I said yes.
Yeah. Have you ever reflected on, or do you feel like you might have acted or done anything differently knowing that there's a camera on you and that it would be public for people to watch?
I think that is a great question. I'm sure I did things differently because there's a camera watching me, to be honest. I'm not sure I can say exactly what, but I think there's surely more of a pressure from me to perform and to work harder, to show what I'm capable of. And there's kind of this like, when you're starting a new job, you're already in that like prove yourself mentality. And on top of that, I'm like, well, I'm doing this with an audience watching, so I better step up my game and make sure I'm not chilling around and actually like doing stuff and showing my abilities and potential and everything that you want people to think of you when you're starting a new job or just being in the spotlight a little bit. So yeah, I think maybe it propelled my career somehow in that sense that I might not have tried as hard if I don't know that there are so many people watching.
Yeah, stakes were kind of high there.
Exactly.
And, I mean, I didn't think about this years before when I first saw the series, but now that I'm reflecting, it was pretty cool to see you as an Asian woman, like Hong Kong, living in France, like working at this B2B fast growing tech company on screen. That was just not something that I see very often. So I thought that was really cool to
yeah, I didn't think about that at all either. But then I got some emails from viewers saying like, oh, I've never like seen Asian women in marketing being represented on like that. And I thought that was really cool. And I felt seen. And so, yeah, it was like, oh, I didn't expect that. And I was like, oh, that was cool. When I got those messages. Yeah.
So let's talk about how you currently got to 360 Learning, because it feels like 360 Learning has really blown up in terms of brand. And I think a lot of it has to do with the teams that you've led. And you're currently director of brand and content there.
Yeah.
What were the milestones, both personal and professional, that led up to you being in this role?
So I think there are probably some things that I've done before I joined 360 Learning that helped me get the role, the first role actually. So I joined as director of content, and then a year in, got promoted to director of brand and content. So I think all the jobs and before 360 Learning, I've worked in like 4 other startups, also in B2B, also in SaaS, also in content. So that's really been my like career trajectory and passion. So I think everything that I've done before that helped me get that job as director of content. And in my past experiences, it's mostly companies that don't have a huge paid budget. So content is, well, Ed mentioned, for example, it is basically the marketing team. So content is doing growth. It's demand gen. It's inbound. It's SEO. It's it's co-marketing, it's influencer marketing, it's everything. And there's no basically paid budget to amplify. So it's all about like, how do you get more awareness and leads just with organic activities? And that's been my main kind of experience before joining 360 Learning. And that's, I think, the reason why they hired me in the first place, because they were in a heavily, almost like 100% paid acquisition situation. They were very good at it. It's like super mathematical, calculated. They're very good at the projections and the VP and everything. But it's getting too expensive and it's not scalable. And especially in the US, where we focus our growth in, just the PPC and the SCM is just insane. And so they're like, okay, we need to invest in brand and in content and organic. And so when I joined, they had like two or three content managers before, but they were mainly like in service of the demand gen team. So they would be like, okay, demand gen needs an ebook, so we'll write an ebook, like an internal agency, but they don't have a strategy. They're not like accountable for growth. They don't have MQL scale targets or anything. So when I joined, I started to build the content strategy from scratch, to design it as an acquisition channel, built the blog, SEO, and started building our mailing list because it did not exist. So the newsletter subscriber list, are doing co-marketing to get to grow our email list. And so that kind of started from there. And then we saw good results and some success. And then I hired 2 more people to grow the blog and our ebooks and long form content more. And then we hired another person to focus on France. So, and then one person to replace the head of video who was doing onboarding Joei with me, but had left the company. So at that time, like, we were a team of like 4, excluding myself. And that was the moment where my coach who had hired me decided that he is leaving the company. And so that was when, I kind of took over his role and expanded to manage also the brand side of things. And that was like a big kind of learning curve for me, because, like, as I said, my whole career was content, and brand is a whole other game. To be honest, for a long time, I thought that it was mainly like fluffy bullshit things.
What color should we use?
First, like, brand is such a vague, like, it's so different for every company. Some company brand is just design. So in some company brand, it's like campaigns, PR. So, already that is like something to be defined. And so for context, that was a time where it was still like booming, like grow at all costs mindset for the market. And our company, we just raised Series C, 200 million. So we're like, okay, let's hire everybody. Let's grow our team by 200%. And so I had to like grow and hire the team really quickly. And so, as I said, there were 4 people. And then basically by the end of it, my team was 17 people before I realized like what's happening. And that was all within the span of like a year. So then my team, from just content plus video, became also brand design, website, campaigns, social media, PR, and video. No, and community. Video was there already. Community. So yeah, so a lot of many other things are added, and each of these things need their own playbook and their own methodology and strategy. And I think a lot of it really happened so fast, and I'm still like, I made some mistakes along the way because I hired too quickly without defining the scopes clear enough, thinking that, okay, we'll just hire someone good to figure it out, which to a certain extent works, but the strategy still needs to be clearer than I thought it needs to be. And so anyway, I had to like, pay the price now, kind of, or for the last couple of months now. and yeah, so what was your original question? Why am I talking about all of this? I guess it was all about like how,
No,
I
it's
got to
great.
where I am, basically. So half of it is kind of like worked for it and been my career trajectory, and half of it is like, at the right place at the right time, but also like kind of pushing myself way out of my comfort zone and doing things I don't really know how to do yet and trying to make things work.
There's a lot of different directions we can go here. I wanna zoom us back to when you joined 360, because an interesting thing you mentioned is it was very much a culture of paid acquisition, very numbers focused, demand gen type of playbook. You came in building out this content playbook. That sounds like a really big culture shift. And I imagine there was probably like butting heads or like managing up. What was that whole process like of getting the company to think about marketing differently from that direct response paid number, like here are the numbers, scale up your spend, see this much come out of it, versus content is not as straightforward as that sometimes?
Yeah. So I think there are two phases to that. So first, because they already made the decision to hire me, so as to a certain extent, they already believed in the value of having, great content, and that content could be a growth driver. So I didn't have to like kind of convince them to take that step. So that's a good thing. And the my manager then, the person who hired me, was the brand director. So he was kind of already coming in and saying like, okay, you have this paid machine demand gen working, and he was coming in as the brand director saying like, now you need brand. And to him, how you drive growth with brand other than the design element and making things look pretty is the content, the organic side of things. So everything that you don't pay for, basically, it's how it was sold or kind of marketed internally. Like, okay, demand gen is everything you pay for. You like the paid leads, the paid SQLs and stuff. And in brand, once market content is working, then you have this organic machine where you have free leads. And so he was really like kind of evangelizing that on, even before I arrived. So that was how, it got started. And that's a great thing that he kind of cleared he prepared the ground for me. And then and so that's the first step, I think, having some like basic acknowledgement that, okay, you can't just have 100% paid demand gen, and that you need some kind of brand / organic growth. The second step that was a bit harder, and I'm still in that phase, I would say, even after 2.5 years, is how do you educate and advocate for content impact and demonstrate our value, because it's not as black and white and controllable and attributable as paid. And because the company has this deep ingrained culture of, marketing is paid and $1 in, $1 out. And if we put 5K in, we should get 5 SQLs. Like, I can't demonstrate the same type of, reporting and ROI as we do over there. So that is like, as I said, to this day, an everyday challenge to have to keep working towards.
That's one of the things, honestly, I have a personal
vendetta
relationship with. Yeah, personal vendetta is the right word, where it feels like content is often seen as less than the other more direct channels, because it's
not just seen as less than, it's also paid as less than. Like, it's literally
less than is treated that way as well.
It pisses me off.
But at the end of the day, content is driving everything when done right.
Yeah.
And so,
even before I joined 360 Learning, I was in another company and I was head of content working next to the head of demand gen. And literally everything he does is filled by, the content that is created with my team. He's paid 3 times what I was paid. So I was, so I'm fed up with this, less than. situation.
Yeah, and that's frankly one of the reasons for the audience listening. Like we have worked together on some projects, but it's one of the reasons why we want to level up like the content marketing universe through our agency, like pull the content team up to the same level as demand gen and say, hey, we can do strategy like better than you, even like we can drive strategy as well. And like you are one part of the marketing portfolio, you do not take over the whole thing. Like content makes up a large part of what you need for demand gen. And like that's why I bring like some of the mathematical models that I have from analytics and growth to it and be like, look at this model we built out for content and SEO. And then people are like, I've never seen this before. So I think we're both approaching it from different angles, where I'm coming from the analytics side to be like, we speak your language too. And you're coming from the side of we can do all this stuff that like you just don't understand because the numbers, like you can't compute the numbers.
Yeah. Or like you can't actually achieve your numbers if not for everything that we do. We were looking at, so, I mean, for the audience listening, our company uses first touch attribution. So today, the way we do reporting for the whole marketing team, so demand gen or content is through this first touch attribution, and we have like all these different channels that generate our MQLs or SQLs, and content is considered one of the channels, which in itself is already a bit of a problematic way to think about content, because it's right next to like directories, SEM, and then content. It's one line, and then and so today, based on this model, content or organic contributes to about 30% of the total pipeline. So it's not bad already.
Touch.
Yes, based on first touch. Okay. It's 30% of total pipe generated, and that is like free versus a directory lead, which may cost a few $1,000s. And to me, like, so I've been kind of playing by the rules and saying, okay, so this is our contribution based on the model that, you deem fair. But there's already a lot of problems with that. But then even if we use this like model, there are things that basically, if you see something attributed to SEM, and then you click on, you dig into it, and then you actually see, oh, it's a brand SEM term. It's not actually a keyword. So then to me, it's just people typing 360 learning and they're clicking on the first ad because they're lazy to scroll down. But then it's attributed to paid demand gen. And then we're over here saying like, hey, why is the brand team, so brand including content team, not generating and making their target? And I'm like, and then if they say like, okay, let's fire the whole brand and content team or cut their budget, then I'm like, well, actually, you're going to suffer in your SEM targets numbers too if you do that, because a lot of it is just not being seen. And so we tried to mitigate that a little bit by now including a how did you hear about us field, and just continuously saying, like, reminding the higher ups that there's more to this spreadsheet. There you need to kind of look at the data with a bit of context and all these things. But I think it's a long process.
Yeah. Have you found anything surprising or interesting once you've added that open field text for like asking how they found out about you?
Yeah.
Has it validated or like invalidated some of your hypotheses?
So I think it's still early for us to make any conclusions, but we've definitely seen a lot more people saying they came from social than attributed. Like from the reporting, it's almost like 0 from social, but a lot of people say they heard about us from LinkedIn. We also hear them talking about like names of partners that we work with that we probably won't be able to track. So a lot of LinkedIn and some influencers that we worked with. So that was encouraging for us to see.
So not ads.
No.
I don't know if anyone from your demand gen team is going to listen to this.
Oh my God, I hope not. I love them a lot. And they're also aware. Like the thing is like they're also aware of how we need to work more together. Like because it's somehow we're like made to compete against each other, which makes no sense.
Yeah.
Whereas like and that creates problems where like, okay, it works maybe in the beginning when we're a small team, but now we're huge now. We're almost a 40 people marketing team. We need to do big campaigns and my team is responsible for orchestrating these campaigns. But it's so hard to get the whole team to work together because we have like these separate like way to measure success. And like, it's my channel versus your channel. So like, why am I wasting time working on this like thing that won't help me reach my targets? And so that is the double-edged sword of having very me-see, like I don't know if everybody's familiar with that term, like mutually exclusive. Oh man, I need to Google this, but it's like consulting term. Mutually exclusive, collectively exhaustive scope thing. So it means that everybody has their own scope and it doesn't overlap. So like your KPI is traffic, my KPI is SQL, and his KPI is conversion, and clear owner, full ownership. No gray area, no free riders, basically. I think it's the idea behind it. And because we're a remote company and it's very like full ownership and we don't control how or where you work, but you push your needles forward and that's it. So that's how, we started with this way of performance management. But the flip side is then it creates these like environments that's not conducive to collaboration.
Yeah. So let's zoom out a little bit and talk about 360 Learning's marketing portfolio. So what's interesting about what y'all are doing is you have Onboarding Joey, you have Learning Audrey, which I guess is sort of like another series. You have Masterclass, you have the podcast, you have L&D Collective, which are like, so there's multimedia, there's community. And what's interesting is these seem like plays where you don't expect an immediate ROI. Tell us about the approach to that. Like, what's the thinking behind that approach to marketing versus some marketing portfolios? It's like webinars, blogs, paid ads, and that's it. Like, so this is a bit different. Tell us about that.
Yeah. Well, we do all of those things too. So the way I see it and kind of sell it is we do the basic things, what I consider like the business as usual content marketing things. So we have a blog, we have an SEO strategy, we're doing webinars to make sure there's a steady stream of leads. We're growing our email list. So to me, it's really like content marketing 101 basics. Like that's the basic playbook. We do it. It shows results. It's our foundation for our kind of organic acquisition strategy. And then because of this, and because this, give us kind of a good steady flow of leads and growth, we have some liberty to take some risks and be bold here and there. And I think it's also like a matter of winning trust with your boss, your manager, to show like, hey, I'm not just here doing random acts of marketing. I know what I'm doing. There's this like steady feeding of the pipeline. So we earned ourselves this freedom to take 10, 20% of our resources to do something different every once in a while. And I think, so onboarding Joey is actually like more than 2 years ago now already.
Wow.
And I think it's kind of crazy in a few ways. Like first, thanks to that big risk that I actually participated in but did not initiate, our company has, it's given our company that appetite for kind of more out there projects. So I'm super grateful for that. And that's how we're able to do learning Odri, which is the same concept but featuring someone who is more within our buyer persona and a bit closer to our value prop, basically. And also, we've kind of developed this kind of skill set to produce videos. So, that's when we did masterclass. We got sued by masterclass, by the way. So,
oh, really?
Yeah.
Are you allowed to say that?
I don't know. We got approached by masterclass, so we had to make some changes to the look and feel. But I see it as a good thing. Anyway, so we did that, and then the podcast. It's like, again, like things that are longer term, but what sets it apart. And the way when I need to sell it, the way I sell it internally is that, I tell them onboarding Joei was 2.5 years old, but I still get podcast requests today to talk about it, like we're talking about it now. So like content investment is really a slow burn. And now that I am coaching also the brand team, so like the whole idea of brand, what it means, how do we make sure people remember us? Like marketing is more than acquisition. Marketing is also your brand, your reputation, your, the brand association. So, and then ultimately that helps acquisition in the long run. So I think, I kind of try to sell that idea internally. And our CEO is also very much a believer of like, doing things different, being bold, provocative. And so naturally, he usually says yes when we have a crazy idea. So that helps. But really, I think it's like, getting your basics, right and there, and, hitting your targets, and then basically being okay that all of these things might not yield return, soon or ever. But like, building the trust, so then you're able to try those things. And even if it don't like in the end, even if it doesn't drive any ROI, which will be quite unlikely, you learn from it. Your team usually gets a kick out of it because it's doing something different and creative. And marketers get tired of writing blog posts over and over again and running webinars over and over again. Yeah. So we need that to fuel our soul, I think, for the long run, the long game. And if it works, it just, puts you in a spot so far away from your competitor that it will take them years to catch up because it's so hard to copy.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah. It's like, we like to talk about the barbell approach, like making bets where 80% is a safe bet, like webinars, blog, SEO, and all that stuff, and paid. And there's this 20% where it's a risk. If it works out, it's going to be amazing. If it doesn't work out, we spent a year and like some money on it. But like the worst case is we lose that. The more likely case is we get some ROI, maybe not like a breakout success, but
exactly,
we're not going to like completely lose on it. So like it's kind of like a measured, calculated bet, not just recklessly throwing money at something.
Exactly. Yeah.
I love that. Yeah. In another interview I listened to when I was researching, doing research for this chat with you, you said something really interesting. You said, if it's easy and it's measurable, then everyone's going to do it.
Yes.
Say more about that.
I think that it's like everything in life. It's what they say, like, oh, if it's easy, everybody's going to do it. And it's the same in marketing. If it's like, oh, the ROI is sure and you can measure it and it's like no brainer, $1 in, $1 out, then why wouldn't everybody do it? And if everybody's doing it, then how are you standing out and how are you winning? And that's my belief in, especially for creative marketing. You need to put in more work than other people to stand out. Like sometimes it's not just like more work, meaning like more hours and work harder, but more like more thought, more intention, more creativity, and like thinking outside of what your industry usually does, like getting inspiration from other, like completely different field and space. in our case, it's like copying reality TV, or like, trying to make B2B marketing more human, more personal, and more interesting, and less boring and less corporate. And yeah, so I think it's just thinking about what that looks like for your brand and your company, and what is the hard thing to do that your competitors cannot do, and go in that direction.
Yeah, I love it. It's I think another angle to think about it too is like breaking out of just incremental thinking. Like, oh, how do we squeeze just a little bit more out of these things? Or like, what's the phrase I actually dislike is like, what's the low-hanging fruit? Like, what's the easy stuff to do? Which is like, yeah, sure, go do that. There's only so much of it left, and everyone's doing that too.
Yes.
But what are the big bets you're going to take that could have a lot of upside? Like, let's do one of those things at least once a year, like twice a year.
Yeah.
And just know that it might go to zero, and that's okay. But otherwise, we're going to be one of those boring corporate sanitized B2B brands that no one cares about.
Yeah, exactly. And the way to know whether what you're doing is provocative enough is to think whether someone would hate it or someone would disagree with it. If the answer is yes, then you're probably in the right direction. And I would also recommend not making decisions by consensus, because when you ask people what they think, especially for like bold, risky things, their answer is usually like,
it might not work.
It might not work, or like, and also nobody wants to own the risk. So like, it's your bet. So just, if you're in the position to make that decision, but like, you can't make it by consensus and hope that, it's a group decision and everybody wants, maybe not. Like, I kind of have to take a risk there. And then if you win, you become a superstar.
Yeah,
if not,
that. And if
maybe,
but
you lose your job.
As the director of content too and brand, I think it shows like, oh, Joey's taking a risk knowing this might not work, and it didn't work. Hopefully it does work, but if it doesn't work, that also shows to your team, oh, we can try new things, and hopefully we don't get fired. Like, it's not that big of a loss. So I love that. I think it's
important for leaders to show that it's okay to take risks and learn from your lessons. And again, like, huge caveat is, of course, like, you're getting your bases covered, and you're actually already contributing to pipeline, you have steady growth, you're hitting your targets. Otherwise, all of this is, you're not talking about taking risks, and when you're not hitting the target and having your basics right. So I would say it's not for every situation in every company. There are companies that you have to do the boring stuff first. I did the boring stuff first. That it was just boring stuff for the first 6 months. Well, other than the fact that it was also onboarding Joey at the same time. But like, my real work was just the boring stuff. And then you earn the right to do the risks. And once you do, like, just take them and learn from them, and then show people that it's okay, and encourage them to do the same. And that's how you kind of build this creative environment where everybody is trying new things, experimenting, and then magic happens.
Yeah, for folks starting a new job, don't go pitching a Netflix series or anything like that yet.
No. So probably not the best idea.
We mentioned leadership just now, and what's interesting to me is you built your team over the pandemic, 1 to 17 employees in 18 months. About what was that journey like? Like, you're a new manager, right? Like, you hadn't managed like a team before, and now, like, you have to learn how to do all of that over a pandemic. Tell us about that journey, some learnings.
So that was insane. That was an insane experience. Really great in the sense that I love a challenge. I like to grow. So it was not boring at all. But I think that I'd learned so many things during that period on like recruitment, managing up, communicating. So all of those things, so many things that I think I need to start a podcast talking about it. But if I have to kind of condense it on a few things, I would say that in the beginning, I thought the win was to hire as many people as possible. I thought that it's about having a big team, and that is how you show growth and success. Like, oh, I'm managing this big 10, 15, 17 people team. That's, wow, great. I made it. And then I realized quickly that that is not the win at all. And that I mentioned this briefly earlier, how important it is to have each of the scopes well defined and the strategy somewhat defined before you hire the person. So this was kind of a change in mindset, in the sense that I thought it's about hiring the best person who knows the job better than I do. Like, they always say, hire someone better than yourself, so then they can do it. They can do what you can't do. So I was really holding on to that belief and being like, okay, well, I'm going to hire an expert and they're going to define a strategy. Why would I define a strategy when I don't know anything about community or social media or brand or PR? But turns out that's a mistake, because you don't know what profile to hire if the strategy is not clear. I actually had a bit of an argument with my CEO about that. And now I'm like, you were totally right. Which I hate when that happens. But he knows. And basically, I think maybe the word strategy is so loosely defined that, we were not thinking about the same thing. So I believe the strategy of the how needs to be defined by the expert, the person you are going to hire. But the strategy of where you need to go needs to be defined by you, like the hiring manager. So that's the part that I think I got confused and mixed up, and led me to make some, wrong hires, or rushed into certain recruitments.
So let's pause there really quick. I think you said something really interesting, where the how is not the thing that you as a leader should be deciding.
Mm-hmm.
As a leader, you should be deciding like the why, like why is this important, and like and the where we're going, like what's the goal, right?
Yeah.
And then you hire someone.
What does success look like?
There.
Yes.
Yeah. What does success look like?
Yeah. What does it look like if we are really great in campaigns? What does it look like when we're really good at social media? What does it look like if we're amazing in PR? And, I think that I had notions of it, but it was not clear enough. And maybe if it was just one scope, and one person being not clear enough, I could have remedied that with coaching, managing, and kind of fixing it mid-course. But because I had to open up like 4 or 5 different new roles at the same time, and then I actually ended up managing a manager, so it's like 2 layers down. It just became impossible to fix. Yeah. Like all hell broke loose, like, with 5 different new people with like 5 different new strategies and playbooks that we need to clear up and fix. And so I would say like that it's my main kind of learning experience. And I wouldn't say like it's all like shit and now we're like it's like a shit show all around. No, but I was just saying like there's a lot of like painful things that I think could have been avoided if I had planned better on the scope and the strategy. And so I had to let some people go and restructure the team. I thought that I could do with less direct reports, but no, I had to directly manage some people, especially for the new scopes, because if you have a new manager managing new people, then there's just too many layers of information that can get lost. And so I'm going to start a podcast talking about all of this.
You should. I don't think there's enough people talking about these things out loud. My girlfriend just found a podcast called Women at Work.
Oh,
and she shared the episode. We were listening to it while we were cooking, and I'm like, oh wow, they
oh,
talk about a lot of the things I've actually had to struggle with. And
oh,
I'm not a
really?
woman, but I'm sure everyone else like is dealing with this too. So
Oh, you gotta
if
share it
there's
with me.
another voice adding, I'll share it with you. Yeah,
Yeah.
if there's another voice like yours sharing it, I would strongly recommend adding that to the
Okay.
conversation.
Well, I'll add that to the New
Yeah.
Year resolution.
So with all this conversation around marketing portfolios, like things that are more predictable, like quote predictable, and things that are less predictable in terms of ROI and like creativeness and brand, there's this whole conversation and a wave of AI tools coming into marketing. And there's like, you can create images, you can
Blog
write blog
posts.
posts, you can produce videos now as well. Like, how are you thinking about how that might impact your career, like other marketers' careers or the industry in a
Yeah.
whole?
I think that, I mean, I'm still just starting to understand the full extent of what, you know, Chat GPT could do for our lives, let alone marketing. I think that, well, first, it's probably going to make a lot of bad marketing go away. So in a sense, I think that's good. Like marketing, when I say bad marketing, it's like content that it's just, it's just a vomit of, the top 5 search results of that keyword. And things that have no perspective, opinion, flavor. It's how I would describe it. So that's a good thing. I think it forces us to step up our game on like really how we're differentiated, not just from our competitors now, but from a robot. So that means, thinking of marketing that has more personality, has more humanness, in the sense that, and I think we're already heading in that direction, at least the way I think about our brand. With the docuseries, with the masterclass, we're always featuring the person. And it's always about creating that relationship of the audience with the people that work within our company. It's a bit like influencer marketing in the sense that, the influencers, they have this relationship with their audience and people watch them for them and not exactly like, no matter kind of, it goes beyond the content they're producing. It's really for the person that they're watching something or reading something. So I think if we can get there, that would be, really amazing and a huge win and kind of where we need to go. And related to that, I think it's to really tap into more of the community that we're building. So we have an L&D community of over 2,000 people that we're growing. And today it's kind of a separate entity. Like it sits within my team, but it's still kind of separate from content. And I think I need to find a way for the two teams to work more together. So then content it's not like content with a bit of community, but like how is community really driving our content strategy? So then we're creating content for and with this community, and that part cannot be copied, cannot be, just generated by AI, because it's really completely driven by, the people, and the people are changing, moving, and then we infuse personality and just the humanness of it. And it's not just about, I want information and I can get it from a robot. It's about like, I'm part of this community and I get these relationships. And that's why I want, and I like this brand and I go to them. So yeah, maybe moving away from informational to relational marketing. Yeah, I just made up those terms. I don't know if they're the right ones.
It might be a thing. They might become a thing starting now. But it's interesting. It sounds like you're not too concerned, where it's going to be another tool. I actually think there's going to be a proliferation of bad marketing, but that means that the good, I think that means that the good marketing will stand out. Like the people doing good marketing will have an easier time standing out, because the bar is low now. So of course that's going to be a lot of crap. But now people who step above the bar are going to be like, it's very clear who's doing well and who's not.
Yeah.
I think when we need to get concerned is when robots can have original thought and emotions and build those. That's a long time from now, hopefully.
Have you listened to the New York Times podcast on like them trying, the chat in real time?
No.
You need to listen to it. And they were like feeding it commands like, write me a love story. And then it writes a perfect love story of Jack and Jill. And, and then you can, change it, modify it by saying like, okay, now write me a love story in as if I'm a gangster in the 50s. And then it would change the tone. And then there's like, okay, now write it in Shakespearean language. And then it will change. Wow. And like, it's amazing. So maybe like we need to just find a way to kind of use it in a funny way somehow to an advantage. But yeah, I am not too worried. I think it's about being creative, being more intentional, which is already what we need to be doing anyway. And yeah, the winners are gonna win even more, like what you said.
Yeah, I feel like there's a whole bunch of things we could start talking about, but I know we don't have all day. And so we'll wrap it up with some of the questions I like asking each guest at the end, and we'll take it and wrap it up from there. So,
okay,
what's one opinion you have about business or marketing that you think people would disagree with?
What opinion you have about business that you think people disagree with? It's hard. I have a lot of opinions. I don't know what people would disagree with. I think we need to work less. I think we need to work less so then we are more creative and we dream bigger. Myself, like the less I work, the better I am at my job, actually. I think you need to, I think something I read recently that I really liked is like, you need to rest to dream. So like literally you need to be sleeping to dream. So like all the great ideas come when you're relaxed, you're resting, people think about the shower, but it's really when you're relaxed. So yeah, I think you need to work less. Maybe people would disagree.
I love that. It's not something I would intuitively do, but it's a great reminder for me where I'm like, I haven't rested in a while.
Oh man, you need it.
I do. What's one impactful piece of advice you've been given?
Impactful piece of advice. I've been given a lot of impactful advice. So I can say a few and you can see which one is most interesting. So I have a professional coach, and I remember she was telling me, like, I had these kind of notions of who I need to be if I want to like succeed or kind of climb up the ladder or whatever. And I felt that I had to choose between, being myself and being like more corporate or more like representing the interests of the company. And in my mind, it was being more like unempathetic and, less kind or whatever. And then my coach was kind of saying like, she just asked me, is that true? And then I realized it's not true. I realized it's a story that I created in my mind. So then now whenever I feel frustrated and stuck with something, I would ask myself, is this true? And then usually I would be like, well, actually, no, it's another story I'm telling myself that it's kind of something I created. And there's usually like a middle ground or another way or like another way to think about or look at it. So that's the first one. And then another one is it's about hiring. It's and maybe some people are familiar with that. It's my previous VP who said, if there's a doubt, then there's no doubt with hiring people. And, at some point I didn't want to listen to that because I think it sounded a bit cruel. But now I'm like, yeah, actually, you need to trust your intuition sometimes. Like if you feel like there's a bit of something off or like you're not fully convinced, then it's better not to take a risk. Like if there's a doubt, there's no doubt regarding hiring.
I love those. Thanks for those. So what skills or area of your life are you currently skilling up on?
Related to my work or in general?
Could be either.
So related to my work, I would say it's about going beyond content. As I said, like I have to kind of upskill myself on the brand side of things, which includes brand design, website, a lot of the analytics, and then on campaigns and PR, which are things that are new to me. So figuring out all that and then how that could work with my core, kind of my strengths, which is content. I think, if you think about a T-shaped marketer, you still have to remember your stamp thing. So I need to think about how to make all of those kind of work all together. And then also thinking, and I'm also working on like thinking more from the company's perspective. And interesting because I just said what I said about like not wanting to become too, corporate or thinking from the interest of the company. But like I'm seeing that, as you step up as a leader, you have to. And the trick is not to just avoid it and forever like think from the perspective of the team versus the company, but to think about how can you think in the interest of the company while protecting or thinking of what's best for your team. And that includes things like how do you plan better, demonstrate your impact better, communicate better, so then you don't put your team in a position where when we have to cut budgets and resources, you have to then give them a bad surprise and kind of have in the way blindside them because they don't see it coming, or have to make decisions that you regret because you didn't plan well enough or prepare the team well enough. That means saying maybe no more often, focusing the team more, being more strict with approvals on budget or expenses. And so then you don't have to later have those like kind of difficult conversations. So those on the professional side. And on the personal side, I'm trying to think about how to diversify my income stream. Yeah, I know you're good at that. So maybe I have to read your blog post or something about your finances. I remember you shared something a long time ago.
Yeah, I'm happy to chat about all that stuff separately. That I love geeking out about that stuff.
Yeah, because I'm tired of like just waiting for this raise to increase my my income. So I need to diversify.
Yeah. Got to get that bag. I get it. So where can people find you on the internet?
LinkedIn. That's where I am. Find me there.
Awesome. Joey, this was a wonderful conversation. Really enjoyed this time together. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. I'm glad it went well. And hopefully somebody got something out of it.